Every morning, you wake up and step into a story you didn't choose. You tell yourself this day will be the turning point, the day everything changes. But before the sun even sets, you're back in the same loop, the same thoughts, the same routines, the same small life that feels like it's quietly stealing your future. You've mastered the art of surviving on leftovers. Leftovers of hope, leftovers of opportunity, leftovers of the life you were born to live. And somewhere deep inside, you've started to accept the lie that this is all you deserve. But what if I told you that the reality you see is nothing more than the shadow of decisions you made when you were at your weakest? That the poverty you feel, the closed doors, the invisible walls, they're not your fate, but the reflection of a mind trained to think like a prisoner when you were created to think like a king. The real question is, how much longer will you live someone else's story? I am Solomon. I built kingdoms not just with gold, but with wisdom. And I'm here to tell you something that will either awaken you or make you close this video and return to your comfortable misery. The choice is yours. The scarcity you live in isn't about your bank account. It's about the person you've allowed yourself to become. It's about the voice in your head that whispers you're not enough, that dreams are for other people, that God has forgotten your address. Today, we're not just changing your mindset. We're rebuilding your entire identity from the ground up. We're taking the broken pieces of who you've been and forging them into the unstoppable force you were created to be. This isn't another motivation video that will make you feel good for 20 minutes. This is surgery. This is the moment you decide whether you'll spend the rest of your life as a victim of your circumstances or as the architect of your destiny. If you're ready to stop lying to yourself and start living as who you truly are, then stay with me. Subscribe to this channel because what you're about to discover will not just change your life. It will resurrect it. Number 1. Scarcity as an internal state. You think your problem is your bank account. You think your problem is your job, your circumstances, your family background, or the economy. But I built temples with my hands and kingdoms with my mind, and I'm here to tell you something that will either set you free or make you angry. Your problem is not what's happening to you. Your problem is what's happening in you. Scarcity is not about money. Scarcity is a disease of the soul. It's a virus that infects your thoughts before it touches your wallet. It's the voice that whispers in your ear every morning, telling you that there's not enough opportunities, not enough time, not enough for someone like you. And the cruelest part? You've started to believe it. I've watched kingdoms rise and fall, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Every empire that crumbled did so because scarcity infected the minds of its leaders first. They stopped thinking like kings and started thinking like beggars. They stopped asking, "How can I create?" and started asking, "How can I survive?" Look at your life right now. Look at how you move through your days. You wake up already calculating what you lack. You check your phone and immediately compare your reality to others' highlight reels. You go to work thinking about everything you can't afford, every door that's closed to you, every dream that feels too big for someone with your background. This is not your natural state. This is learned helplessness masquerading as wisdom. This is fear dressed up as responsibility. You've been programmed to think small, to expect less, to settle for crumbs when you were created to feast at the king's table. The mind that created your current reality cannot create your desired reality. Let me say that again, because this is where most people stumble. The same mind that got you into financial struggle, relationship chaos, and spiritual emptiness cannot get you out. You need a new mind. You need to think different thoughts, see different possibilities, and most importantly, believe different truths about who you are. I remember a merchant who came to me, weeping about his business failures. He had all the knowledge, all the connections, all the resources he needed, but every venture he touched crumbled. Do you know what I saw when I looked at this man? I saw someone who expected to fail. His mind was so saturated with stories of not being enough that his hands couldn't build what his heart desired. His scarcity was not in his warehouse, it was in his identity. Here's what I told him, and here's what I'm telling you. Abundance is not something you achieve, it's something you become. Wealth is not something you accumulate, it's something you embody. Prosperity is not a destination, it's a decision about how you see yourself and your place in this world. When you believe you are small, you make small decisions. When you believe you are limited, you accept limited opportunities. When you believe you don't deserve more, you unconsciously sabotage every chance to receive more. Your beliefs are not just thoughts, they are the architects of your experience. Stop waiting for your circumstances to change so you can feel abundant. Start feeling abundant so your circumstances have permission to change. Stop looking at what you lack and start seeing what you have to build with. Stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What's next?" Your mind is the richest territory you will ever conquer. And until you take dominion over your thoughts, you will remain a slave to your circumstances. Number 2, awakening through pain. You've been running from your pain like it's your enemy. You medicate it, avoid it, blame others for it, and pray for it to disappear. But what if I told you that your pain is not your problem? What if I told you that your pain is actually your invitation to become who you were always meant to be? Pain is God's alarm system. It's the divine disruption that shakes you awake when you've been sleepwalking through your life. It's the uncomfortable grace that forces you to face what you've been avoiding, to confront what you've been denying, and to rebuild what you've been neglecting. Every king learns this truth. What doesn't kill you doesn't just make you stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you wiser. What doesn't kill you strips away everything fake and reveals what's real. Pain is not your punishment. Pain is your professor. Think about David in the cave of Adullam, betrayed by those he trusted, hunted by those he served, surrounded by men who were as broken as he was. Everything that defined his identity had been stripped away. His position, his security, his future, all gone. And in that dark, damp cave, something extraordinary happened. He didn't just survive his pain, he was transformed by it. In Psalm 18, David doesn't hide his anguish. He cries out to God from his distress. But notice what happens next. His pain becomes his prayer, his crisis becomes his connection, and his desperation becomes his dependence on something greater than himself. The man who entered that cave as a fugitive emerged as a future king. This is the alchemy of awakening. Pain reveals what must die so that what must live can be born. Your ego must die so your purpose can live. Your pride must die so your wisdom can live. Your false identity must die so your true self can live. And yes, it hurts. Death always hurts, even when it's the death of what was killing you. You've been trying to heal without dying. You've been trying to grow without letting go. You've been trying to become new while clinging to what made you old. But transformation doesn't work that way. Something must be sacrificed on the altar of change. Your current pain is not random. It's not meaningless. It's not evidence that God has forgotten you. Your pain is perfectly designed to wake you up to what you've been ignoring, to drive you toward what you've been resisting, and to prepare you for what you've been requesting. Every mature soul learns this secret. Suffering is not the opposite of blessing. Suffering is often the delivery system of blessing. The pressure that crushes coal creates diamonds. The heat that melts gold purifies it. The storm that uproots weak trees strengthens the roots of strong ones. Stop asking God to remove your pain and start asking Him what He wants to reveal through your pain. Stop seeing your struggles as evidence of His absence and start seeing them as invitations to His presence. Stop believing that good people don't suffer and start understanding that strong people are forged in the furnace of difficulty. Your pain has been your teacher, and it's time to graduate from the lesson. Number 3, the power of a decided mind. You know what separates kings from peasants? It's not bloodline, it's not luck, it's not even opportunity, it's decision. A king's mind is a decided mind. A peasant's mind is a mind at war with itself. Look at your life right now and tell me honestly, how many internal battles are you fighting? How many times do you change your mind in a single day? How many dreams do you start and abandon? How many goals do you set and forget? This is not weakness. This is the disease of an undecided mind. An undecided mind is like a ship without a rudder, blown by every wind, tossed by every wave, never arriving at its destination, because it never really decided where it was going. You cannot build a kingdom on uncertainty. You cannot create wealth from confusion. You cannot manifest purpose from a mind that changes its mind every time circumstances change. I built the temple in Jerusalem not because I was the most talented builder, but because I had a decided mind about what needed to be built. While others debated whether it was possible, I decided it was necessary. While others worried about the obstacles, I focused on the outcome. While others waited for perfect conditions, I worked with what I had. A decided mind sees through circumstances to possibilities. A decided mind doesn't ignore challenges. It sees them as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. A decided mind doesn't need permission from others because it has authority from within. But here's what most people misunderstand about decision. They think decision is an event. They think you decide once and you're done. But decision is not an event. Decision is a discipline. Decision is something you practice every day, every hour, every moment, when doubt tries to seduce you back into uncertainty. David faced Goliath not because he wasn't afraid, but because he had decided that faith was stronger than fear. He had decided that God's reputation was more important than his safety. He had decided that some battles are worth fighting, regardless of the odds. That's the power of a decided mind. Your problem is not that you don't know what you want. Your problem is that you want everything, so you commit to nothing. You want financial freedom, but you're not decided about paying the price. You want better relationships, but you're not decided about changing your behavior. You want spiritual growth, but you're not decided about spiritual discipline. When your mind is truly decided, your energy organizes itself around that decision. When your mind is truly decided, opportunities that were invisible become obvious. When your mind is truly decided, you stop looking for motivation and start generating momentum. Stop waiting to feel ready and decide to be ready. Stop waiting for clarity and decide to create clarity through action. Stop waiting for the perfect plan and decide that any plan executed is better than a perfect plan postponed. Heaven responds to decisiveness, not desperation. Number 4. Faith and discipline. You've been treating faith like a feeling, and that's why it keeps failing you. You think faith is supposed to make you feel good, make things easy, make sense of your circumstances. But I've walked with God longer than most, and I'm here to tell you something that might disturb your comfortable version of faith. Real faith is not a feeling. Real faith is a fight. Faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is the decision to act in spite of doubt. Faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is courage in conversation with fear. Faith is not passive hope. Faith is active participation in the promises of God. David didn't feel brave when he faced Goliath. He felt everything you feel when you're staring at something bigger than you. Inadequate, small, overwhelmed. But faith didn't change his feelings. Faith changed his actions. He picked up the stone not because he felt like a giant killer, but because he believed God was a giant killer working through him. This is where most people get faith wrong. They wait to feel faithful before they act faithfully. But faith works in reverse. You act faithfully, and then you begin to feel faithful. You behave like someone who trusts God, and then trust begins to take root in your heart. But faith without discipline is just wishful thinking. Faith says God will provide, but discipline says I will prepare for what God provides. Faith says God will open doors, but discipline says I will develop the skills to walk through those doors. Faith believes in miracles, but discipline creates the conditions where miracles can manifest. I didn't become wealthy by faith alone. I became wealthy by combining faith with wisdom, prayer with planning, trust with diligent work. Faith gave me the vision. Discipline gave me the victory. Faith showed me what was possible. Discipline made it actual. Think of discipline as faith in work clothes. When you discipline your thoughts, you're demonstrating faith that your mind can be renewed. When you discipline your habits, you're demonstrating faith that your character can be transformed. When you discipline your finances, you're demonstrating faith that your future can be different from your past. The problem with most people is they want the benefits of discipline without the burden of discipline. They want the harvest without the planting, the results without the routine, the destination without the journey. But God doesn't work that way. He honors process, not shortcuts. David was trained in faithfulness with sheep before he was trusted with a kingdom. He learned to fight lions and bears before he faced giants. He mastered the small battles before he commanded the great wars. Every level of his promotion was preceded by a season of preparation. Your current season of discipline is not punishment, it's preparation. Your current struggles are not evidence that faith doesn't work. They're proof that faith is working you. Every repetition of right action, when you don't feel like it, is building spiritual muscle that you'll need for what's coming. Stop praying for easier circumstances and start praying for stronger character. Stop asking God to remove the pressure and start asking Him to increase your capacity. Stop begging for shortcuts and start embracing the scenic route that builds you while it leads you. Faith believes God will do what He promised, but discipline prepares you to receive what He provides. Number 5. Purpose unlocks prosperity. You've been chasing money, but money has been running from you. You know why? Because money is not attracted to desperation. Money is attracted to purpose. Money doesn't flow toward need, money flows toward value. Money doesn't follow those who want it most, money follows those who serve it best. You think prosperity is about having more, but prosperity is about being more. Prosperity is not about what you can accumulate, it's about what you can create. It's not about what you can take from the world, it's about what you can contribute to the world. I became the richest man in history, not because I loved money, but because I loved what money could build. I loved justice, wisdom, beauty, order. Money was just the tool that allowed me to construct these values in the physical realm. When your purpose is bigger than your pockets expand to match your purpose. Every person living in financial struggle is living with purpose confusion. They don't know why they're here, so they don't know what they're building toward. They don't know what problem they're meant to solve, so they don't know what value they're meant to create. They're like builders without blueprints, workers without assignments, soldiers without missions. When you discover your purpose, 3 things happen instantly. First, anxiety begins to die. You stop comparing yourself to others because you're not running their race. You stop panicking about the future because you know where you're going. You stop second-guessing every decision because you have a filter for what fits your mission and what doesn't. Second, energy increases. Purpose is the ultimate fuel. When you know why you're doing something, you find the strength to do it even when it's difficult. When you understand the meaning behind your work, you stop feeling like a victim of your circumstances and start feeling like an architect of your destiny. Third, opportunities multiply. The same world that seemed closed to you when you were wandering opens up when you're walking with intention. People want to partner with purpose. Resources want to serve mission. Doors open for those who know where they're going and why they need to get there. But here's what you must understand about purpose. Purpose is not a feeling you discover. Purpose is a decision you make. Purpose is not something you find. Purpose is something you create through the problems you choose to solve and the people you choose to serve. Look around you right now. What breaks your heart? What makes you angry? What do you see that others ignore? What do you understand that others miss? These are not accidents. These are clues. Your pain points are often your purpose points. Your frustrations are often your assignments. David's purpose wasn't just to be king. It was to establish a kingdom where justice ruled, where the weak were protected, where God's presence dwelled among His people. Every decision he made, every battle he fought, every relationship he built was filtered through this larger vision. Money seeks people who know what to do with it. Opportunity seeks people who know what to build with it. Prosperity seeks people who see it as a tool for service, not just a trophy for success. When your purpose becomes crystal clear, prosperity becomes inevitable. Number 6. Inner readiness before external prosperity. You want what successful people have, but you're not prepared for what successful people carry. You see their wealth, but you don't see their discipline. You admire their freedom, but you ignore their responsibilities. You want their results, but you're not ready for their requirements. This is the tragedy of premature prosperity, receiving what you're not prepared to steward. It's like giving a sword to a child or a kingdom to a fool. The very blessing you've been praying for can become the curse that destroys you if you're not internally ready to handle it. I've seen it happen countless times. People who pray for money and lose their minds when they get it. People who beg for opportunities and sabotage them when they arrive. People who cry out for promotion and crumble under the pressure when it comes. The problem wasn't the blessing, the problem was the readiness. External prosperity without internal structure is like building a mansion on quicksand. It looks impressive from the outside, but it won't stand when storms come. And storms always come. Success creates its own challenges. Wealth generates its own problems. And influence brings its own temptations. This is why David's time in the cave wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every day he spent running from Saul. Every night he spent wondering if he'd see another sunrise. Every moment he spent leading broken men and making impossible decisions was preparing him for what he couldn't yet imagine, ruling a nation. The cave taught David how to hear God's voice when everyone else's voice was screaming. The cave taught him how to make decisions when all the options were bad. The cave taught him how to lead people who had given up on themselves. These weren't skills he could learn in a palace. These were skills he could only develop in the darkness. Your current season of limitation is not God being cruel, it's God being wise. Your current season of struggle is not evidence that He doesn't love you. It's evidence that He's preparing you for something that requires more strength than you currently have. Money magnifies who you already are. If you're undisciplined, money will multiply your chaos. If you're insecure, money will amplify your fears. If you're unhealed, money will aggravate your wounds. If you're unprincipled, money will accelerate your downfall. But if you're grounded in purpose, money will expand your impact. If you're rooted in character, money will multiply your influence. If you're connected to God, money will become a tool in His hands to build His kingdom through your life. This is why the preparation process cannot be rushed. Character is built through repetition, not revelation. Integrity is forged through testing, not teaching. Wisdom is earned through experience, not explanation. Stop praying for more until you're ready for more. Stop asking for bigger until you can handle what you have. Stop begging for external changes until you've made the internal changes that can sustain them. God is not withholding from you. He's preparing you for what He's preparing for you. Number 7, God as foundation and trainer. You've been treating God like a therapist when He's actually your trainer. You've been expecting Him to comfort you when He's trying to strengthen you. You've been asking Him to make life easier when He's designed to make you stronger. David understood something that most people miss. God trains those He loves. In Psalm 18, David declares, "He trains my hands for battle." Notice, David doesn't say God removes the battles. He says God prepares him for the battles. God doesn't eliminate the challenges. He develops David's capacity to overcome them. This is the difference between a father and a friend. A friend tells you what you want to hear. A father tells you what you need to know. A friend comforts your weakness. A father challenges you to grow stronger. A friend enables your excuses. A father destroys your limitations. God is not your cosmic vending machine, dispensing blessings when you put in the right prayers. God is your divine trainer, developing your spiritual muscles through resistance, building your faith through challenges, and increasing your capacity through carefully calibrated pressure. Every setback you've experienced has been strength training. Every disappointment has been endurance building. Every injustice has been character development. Every delay has been patience cultivation. You thought God was being harsh when He was actually being thorough. I learned this truth through seasons that felt like punishment, but were actually preparation. Every burden I carried developed the strength I would need to bear greater responsibilities. Every criticism I endured developed the thick skin I would need to make difficult decisions. Every lonely night developed the inner dependence I would need to lead with wisdom rather than popular opinion. The training process is never comfortable because comfort never produces strength. You don't build muscle by avoiding resistance. You build muscle by engaging with resistance. You don't develop character by avoiding challenges. You develop character by facing challenges with integrity. But here's what makes divine training different from worldly training. God never gives you more than you can handle, but He always gives you more than you think you can handle. He pushes you beyond your comfort zone, but never beyond your breaking point. He stretches you, but never snaps you. When David faced Goliath, he wasn't stepping into the unknown. He was stepping into what he had been prepared for. Every lion he had killed was training for this bear. Every bear he had defeated was preparation for this giant. God had been building his confidence through progressive victories. Your current challenges are not evidence that God has forgotten you. They're evidence that He's preparing you. Your current struggles are not punishment for past failures. They're training for future victories. Your current pain is not random suffering. It's purposeful strengthening. Stop asking God to remove the weights and start asking Him to increase your strength. Stop praying for easier assignments and start praying for greater capacity. Stop begging for less pressure and start building for more purpose. The same God who trained your hands for battle will also crown you for victory. Number 8. From scarcity to service. You cannot serve others when you're obsessed with saving yourself. You cannot bless others when you're consumed with your own brokenness. You cannot multiply resources when you're hoarding them out of fear. This is the cruel mathematics of scarcity. The more you focus on your lack, the less you have to give. Scarcity thinking makes you the center of your own universe. Every conversation becomes about your problems. Every opportunity gets evaluated through the lens of, what's in it for me? Every relationship becomes transactional. You become so focused on getting that you forget the joy of giving. So focused on surviving that you forget the purpose of thriving. But abundance thinking flips the entire equation. Instead of asking, how can I get more? You start asking, how can I give more? Instead of hoarding resources, you start multiplying them. Instead of protecting your territory, you start expanding your impact. This is the paradox that changed David's entire trajectory. The moment he stopped fighting for his own throne and started fighting for God's kingdom, every resource he needed became available. When his motivation shifted from self-preservation to divine service, heaven opened its treasury to fund his mission. Service is not something you do after you become successful. Service is what makes you successful. Service is not the result of abundance. Service is the cause of abundance. When you start serving others' needs, you start creating value. When you start creating value, you start attracting resources. Look at every person you admire, every business you respect, every leader you follow. Behind their success is a trail of service. They solved problems that others ignored. They met needs that others overlooked. They served markets that others abandoned. Their wealth is the natural byproduct of their service. But service requires a fundamental shift in identity. You have to stop seeing yourself as someone who needs to be served and start seeing yourself as someone called to serve. You have to stop asking, what can this world give me? And start asking, what can I give this world? This shift doesn't happen overnight because it requires the death of ego and the birth of purpose. Your ego wants to be important. Your purpose wants to be useful. Your ego wants recognition. Your purpose wants results. Your ego wants to be served. Your purpose wants to serve. Money is not evil. It's neutral. In the hands of selfish people, it amplifies selfishness. In the hands of generous people, it multiplies generosity. In the hands of those called to serve, it becomes a tool for transformation, a weapon against injustice, a bridge between resources and needs. When David finally became king, he didn't hoard his power. He stewarded it. He didn't use his position to serve himself. He used it to serve his people and honor his God. His prosperity became a platform for purpose. His wealth became a tool for worship. His influence became an instrument for justice. Stop trying to get rich and start trying to get useful. Stop focusing on accumulating and start focusing on contributing. Stop asking what the world owes you and start discovering what you owe the world. True wealth flows toward those who have learned that the secret to having more is giving more. Number 9. Silence, focus, and mental clarity. You're drowning in noise and wondering why you can't hear direction. You're consuming information constantly and wondering why you lack wisdom. You're always connected to everything and wondering why you feel disconnected from yourself. The modern world has weaponized distraction against your destiny. Every notification is designed to steal your attention. Every headline is crafted to hijack your emotions. Every update is engineered to keep you addicted to external noise while your inner voice grows fainter and fainter. David knew something that our generation has forgotten. Silence is not empty. Silence is full. Silence is where God speaks, where wisdom whispers, where clarity crystallizes. In the cave, in the wilderness, in the quiet moments between battles, David found the voice that would guide him for the rest of his life. But silence in our world requires intentionality. It requires you to turn off the phone, close the laptop, step away from the crowd, and sit with your own thoughts. And that terrifies most people because they've been running from their thoughts for so long that they've forgotten how to listen to them. Your mind is like a snow globe. When you're constantly shaking it up with new information, new worries, new distractions, everything stays cloudy. But when you allow it to settle, when you create space for stillness, clarity begins to emerge. The answers you've been searching for externally have been waiting for you internally. Focus is not about doing more. Focus is about doing less better. It's about saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It's about eliminating distractions so you can concentrate on what matters. It's about choosing depth over breadth, quality over quantity, precision over proliferation. The human brain is not designed to multitask. It's designed to monotask with excellence. When you try to focus on everything, you end up mastering nothing. When you scatter your energy across multiple priorities, you end up making progress on none of them. Mental clarity is the foundation of all success because you cannot create externally what you cannot see internally. You cannot build what you cannot envision. You cannot achieve what you cannot conceive. Clear thinking leads to clear goals. Clear goals lead to clear actions. And clear actions lead to clear results. This is why successful people protect their mental environment as fiercely as they protect their physical environment. They guard their thoughts like treasures and their attention like sacred territory. They understand that mental stewardship is the most important form of stewardship. Every thought you think is a seed that will eventually become a harvest. If you plant thoughts of fear, you will reap a harvest of anxiety. If you plant thoughts of scarcity, you will reap a harvest of lack. If you plant thoughts of defeat, you will reap a harvest of failure. But if you plant thoughts of faith, you will reap a harvest of breakthrough. If you plant thoughts of abundance, you will reap a harvest of prosperity. If you plant thoughts of victory, you will reap a harvest of success. Stop letting your mind be a garbage dump for every random thought that blows through. Start curating your mental diet with the same intentionality you use to choose your physical diet. Feed your mind truth, beauty, possibility, and purpose. In the silence, you will find your voice. In the focus, you will find your path. In the clarity, you will find your power. Number 10. True wealth, purpose, and character. You've been measuring your worth by your net worth, and that's why you feel worthless even when your bank account grows. You've been defining success by external metrics, and that's why internal emptiness persists despite external achievements. You've been building a life that looks good from the outside while feeling hollow from the inside. True wealth is not what you have. True wealth is who you've become. True wealth is not your assets. True wealth is your character. True wealth is not your possessions. True wealth is your purpose. Everything else is just accessories to the main event, which is the transformation of your soul. I accumulated gold and silver, built palaces and gardens, commanded armies and ruled nations. But at the end of my life, when I looked back on everything I had accomplished, I realized that the greatest treasure was not what I had gathered, but who I had become in the process of gathering it. Wealth without character is like a beautiful house built on a foundation of sand. It might look impressive for a season, but it cannot withstand the storms that inevitably come. Character is the bedrock upon which all sustainable success is built. Character is what allows you to handle prosperity without it destroying you. Purpose is what gives meaning to wealth. Without purpose, money becomes an end in itself, and that's a recipe for emptiness. With purpose, money becomes a tool for transformation, a weapon against injustice, a bridge between vision and reality. Purpose is what transforms accumulation into impact. You are the greatest asset you will ever own. Your healed heart is more valuable than gold. Your renewed mind is more precious than silver. Your aligned spirit is more powerful than any external force. When you invest in developing yourself, you're making the one investment that can never be stolen, devalued, or destroyed. Character is built through choices. Every time you choose integrity over advantage, you make a deposit in the bank of character. Every time you choose service over selfishness, you increase your character's compound interest. Every time you choose truth over convenience, you strengthen the foundation upon which your entire life is built. Purpose is discovered through service. When you stop asking, "What can I get from life?" and start asking, "What can I give to life?" purpose begins to crystallize. When you identify the problems that break your heart and the solutions that ignite your passion, you've found the intersection where your gifts meet the world's needs. The most successful people I've ever observed had this in common. They fell in love with becoming who they were, created to be more than they loved, accumulating what they thought they wanted to have. They understood that being comes before having, that character precedes prosperity, that purpose unlocks all other forms of abundance. Stop trying to get rich quick and start committing to get rich deep. Stop chasing external validation and start building internal transformation. Stop measuring your progress by your possessions and start measuring it by your character development. When you become the person you were created to be, you automatically attract the life you were created to live. When you align with your purpose, prosperity aligns with you. When you build character, circumstances bow to your strength rather than breaking you through their pressure. You are not meant to be a collector of things but a creator of value, not a hoarder of resources but a multiplier of possibilities, not a consumer of opportunities but a generator of solutions. The richest person in the room is not the one with the most money. The richest person in the room is the one with the most purpose, the deepest character, and the clearest vision of who they were created to become. There's a moment in every transformation when you realize that the person you were yesterday can no longer contain the vision you carry today. It's like trying to pour an ocean into a teacup, trying to force infinite possibility through the narrow lens of old limitations. Something has to expand, and that something is you. You're standing at the threshold now, not between rooms, but between versions of yourself. The old you understood scarcity, accepted limitations, made peace with less than you were created for. But something has shifted in your inner world. And when the inner world changes, the outer world has no choice but to follow. This is not about positive thinking or wishful dreaming. This is about the fundamental restructuring of how you see yourself, how you interact with possibility, how you steward the divine spark that lives within you. You've been given everything you need, not just to survive, but to create, to build, to multiply, to become a force for transformation in this world. The cave seasons of your life, the wilderness moments, the times when everything seemed to be falling apart, those weren't punishments. They were preparations. They were the divine process of emptying you of what didn't serve so you could be filled with what does. They were God's way of creating space for the larger version of yourself that was trying to emerge. Every breath you take from this moment forward is a choice between the person you've been and the person you're becoming. Every decision is either moving you toward the life you were created for or keeping you trapped in the life you've settled for. If what you've heard today has awakened something in you that was sleeping. If it stirred something in you that was dormant, then you're ready for the deeper journey of transformation that lies ahead. Subscribe not just to this channel, but to the process of becoming who you were always meant to be. The work of rebuilding never truly ends because you were created to grow, to expand, to become more tomorrow than you are today.